Hi, my name is Dan Zeilinger, and I have been a world-traveling full-time trad jazz musician for the past 40 years. Some of my most memorable performances were on the lawn of the Edinburgh Castle, at Imperial Palace in Japan, as well as TV shows and commercials across the world. I've met many people during my career and have spent many hours on stage and off with these musicians, talking about jazz, life, and more. Some are touring musicians, some are theme park warriors, and some are casual musicians who play on the weekends with friends. I think they all have stories worthy of a movie script, and through these interviews, I'll be sharing them with you. Hi, this is Dan Zeilinger from Trad Jazz Today, and my first guest is trumpeter, composer, a teacher, singer extraordinaire,
Oh my God.
an old friend, Jim Ziegler. Jim, how you doing?
I'm fine, sir. How are you? Hi,
Uh,
everybody.
I'm going to slip every so often and call you Jimmy. I hope you don't mind. Because that's just how Tom and I always referred to you. We're Tom Listen, for those of you who aren't
Yeah,
hip.
yeah. Well, that's nice.
And I
My
definitely
mom
was.
calls. My mom used to call me that. I guess it's a
Well,
term of endearment, I suppose.
I guess. Nobody ever called me Tommy, so I guess I'm not loved. Or Jimmy, or,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
what can I say?
Well,
Well, good. So the idea is kind of to give all of my friends that play early style jazz. I think George Probert was a genius in that he called his band old style, and
yes.
he didn't put the Dixieland or trad or classic jazz moniker on it, and it seems to be a thing now. You know, you don't. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah, Monrovia Old Style. That was the name of his.
So that was a pretty genius title for a band, although, and he called it Old Style Jazz Band because I thought about that. And there's a lot of old style stuff. Good. So Jim, tell me. I know, and I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions that I already know, but
Sure.
just because we've spent too much time together.
Yeah, but
And
they don't.
so where were you born?
I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and I grew up south of there. That's
Okay,
called Arnold, which is in Jefferson County, which is just south of St. Louis.
so not under the
That's where
arch
I'm.
or
That's
anything.
where I'm from.
You didn't grow up
I'm
under the
sorry.
arch.
No, not under the arch. No, it was in the environs. It was outside around. So,
Now, did growing up there and being born there in that area, did that have anything to do with influencing you musically?
well, yeah, I started playing trumpet when I was in fourth grade. I had a guy that would come in once a week, sort of like what I do now. I'm a band director. I go in once a week to these Catholic elementary schools, and this guy worked for a music store. And I don't know why I picked up the trumpet, but I did, and I wasn't really interested in it until I went to high school.
Okay.
And I had a very good high school band director. His name is Dick McCreary. He's still around. He retired. He's a wonderful jazz drummer in
Oh,
St. Louis area, and he kind of got me into the idea of playing music, playing jazz. He wasn't married at the time, and we used to hang out, and he would play me records, and it really was inspiring. And he told me, well, you need to go take private lessons, and so I did. And at the time, I couldn't really read. It was one of those guys that would kind of look at the guy next to me to find out what to do. And so my trumpet teacher, Gordon Alt, I'm name dropping here. I think he's
oh,
still around.
drop away.
I, I owe him a lot because he taught me how to read. I mean, I came in, I was sad. I couldn't even play a whole note. And he gave me this method and he said, go do this. And I was down in my mother and father's basement playing whole notes and then half notes and then quarter notes. And I taught myself with his help how to read music, right?
Wow.
And so all through high school and college, I was playing catch up because all the stuff I should have learned in grade school, I was doing in high school and college. So I would shudder to listen to my senior recital from college now because of course when you're young you don't know that you don't know anything. You just know I have to do this, right?
Sure.
And you don't know you're not. I guess some people are imbued with you know geniuses are imbued with that kind of thing, and I just did it. And now it'd be like, well, gosh, I could do that like a lot of people. I could do that a lot better now. I know, but that's not going to happen.
It's
So,
interesting.
so yeah, all that time I was
You
catching
said
up.
some magic words there, having to do with the fact that, of course, we're both fathers. And we're
Yes.
talking about in your youth, you don't know what you don't know. Really comes home when you have children.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
uh, it's great. I haven't seen, of course, I haven't seen any of your family for what I don't know. Was it 20 years? How long? When was it when we were hanging out all the time? How long ago was that?
Well, with Tom, we were doing the SeaWorld thing. John Brand did the first year in '94.
That's right.
And then he took off, and you did 95, 96, and 97, I think, is when they had a change of heart down there, and they changed it into a surf band, part surf band and
Which I was
half
also
ragtime thing. Right, and then I lost, my
Right.
slot.
Yeah, well, it's
Although
half surf band and half Oktoberfest band actually. Remember that?
yes, yeah, we did some Oktoberfest stuff though too.
We did in fake Leatherhosen. That's right.
Right, at that trio, the October trio.
Now
But
I have a picture of us
oh my gosh, oh
when we
gosh,
were playing at SeaWorld,
oh my,
and it was those the black shorts and tennis shoes with those half tuxedo vests
right, the red ones.
and hats and straw hats,
Yes,
of course. It's
right.
a funny picture. I'll have to send it to you sometime.
Oh gosh, I still have my SeaWorld badge.
No,
I have it in.
the fact that you could remember dates, that's something. Of course, I can't remember anything. I can't remember dates. I can't remember changes.
Yeah, well,
I've lived my life as a seat of the pants guy, and it's come back to bite me several times.
right. I'm cursed with a very good memory,
Well,
so
I don't, know
I
if-
can
I don't
remember.
think that's a curse,
Well, I can remember gigs way back, and so I
Well,
remember.
I was just going to say, let's go back, Mr. Memory, to your childhood. What was your very first recollection of liking music? I ask people this because I can remember sitting in my living room and listening to something, going, having an unusual fascination with music. Were your parents musical?
Not really. My mom likes to kid that she played the accordion for a while, you know, and that's like a running joke out of Disneyland with Kenny Tresser. He plays a little bit accordion, and he tells accordion jokes. But she did that. It's kind of funny that a couple years ago I was back home before my uncle Bob died, who was one of my dad's youngest brother. And he told me this story about my grandfather who died way before I was born, Arthur Ziegler. And he told me that he was a musician. And he was in this band called the Five Zigglers.
Wow.
And I had no idea. Oh, now there's a big black thing on my screen here. Hold on. This thing is, okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. Get out of here. All right. So anyway, and he told me, yeah, it was these four Zigglers and one Zempler, or somebody, and he told me that when he was going to marry my grandmother, that she told him he had to give up music or she wouldn't marry him, and so he
Oh,
did. And
wow.
I was like, why didn't anyone ever tell me this? My grandfather was a musician. No one told me this until, they were all gone. My grandmother had been gone for 20 odd years, and, I'd never met him.
Yeah.
But I was very grateful to my uncle for telling me this.
Well, let me relate to you a short story of my own to this.
Okay.
I think you'll enjoy. Of course, first of all, I always wondered if somewhere down the line we were related because of our names.
Okay.
Because Ziegler and Zeilinger isn't all that far off when you're talking about
Sure.
German lineage.
Right.
But the thing I wanted to tell you was when I first started playing, I started playing as a trumpet player, as you know.
Right.
And my father used to say, it's too bad, when I was on the farm in Nebraska, my father was a farmer from Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
He said there was a cornet in the barn that you probably would have liked. And he said, but my brother, my uncle, took it, hoping that his son would play, so it's kind of lost. And, I didn't know what they were talking about.
Wow.
About 2 years ago, my son, my brother, my older brother went to Arizona to visit my uncle, that very
Hmm.
uncle. And as he was leaving, he said, "Oh, by the way, Bill, does Dan still play music?" And he says, "Yeah." He goes, "Here, you might like this." And he handed him an 1899 uh, English Besson cornet
Oh my
from J.W. Pepper.
God.
It had my four times great grandfather's initial on a little medallion on the case. He said, "Here, Dan might like this."
Wow.
Isn't that incredible? And so we looked at my older brother before he gave it to me, researched him
Yeah.
and the horn, and that's how we found out the date, of course, and found out that he played in the Civil War
Oh my gosh.
and had bought the horn after the Civil War, obviously,
Right.
and so I thought you would be somebody who would appreciate that story.
Yeah. I have I'm right. I have this. Right. So I had found this out about my grandfather. I haven't found out anything else, but I have this. I'm going to hold this photo up to the screen here.
Sure.
The man with the clarinet in this photo is my uncle Eugene, who played in World War II. He was in the army in an army band. So that's my mother gave me that photo.
Wow, that's
So he's
great.
on the right. He was on the right there with the clarinet. But so these are people, and I don't know much about them. I wish I knew more. So, but there is no direct link other than maybe this genetic thing from my grandfather that no one told me about. I mean, my dad never said anything.
Well, we
You know,
definitely we definitely have to research our connection because you know what my middle name is?
what is your middle name?
Eugene, and I
Wow.
have and I have no idea why.
Right.
So
Well,
who
mine's
knows?
mine's Henry, like my father. I'm Junior. I'm James Henry Ziegler Jr.
Great.
Henry Ziegler Sr. So.
So how did you get through? You went through high school without being able to read. You know, Brian Shaw did the same thing.
Right. Well, I mean, I started reading. It was sophomore year of high school when this Mr. McCurry came, and by I think maybe yeah by that fall I was starting to take lessons. So I junior senior I by my senior year I was I was reading, and there was this joke we had. I was at this little Catholic high school in Festus, Missouri, St. Pius X, and we had a little marching band or whatever. And the one English teacher was friends of Mr. McCurry. Would always joke. He'd say, "When Ziegler stops playing, you can't hear the band." Yep, because I was practicing. Go figure, practicing, and I actually knew the music, and I was playing the lead trumpet. So, but that was kind of a nice, it
Now,
was
don't you
funny.
think that way into playing actually helped your improvisational ear?
Yeah, just I always I found that I had a good ear for things, and I could hear and could play things back because my and I could hear pitches relatively because my trumpet teacher said one day that's a whatever, and I said no, it's not. It's a B or whatever, and he said wait a minute, and so he started hitting the piano, and I told him what the pitch was.
So
He said you got perfect
do you have
pitch.
perfect pitch or just really good relative pitch?
I think it's pretty good relative. I mean, I don't know if I can hear it absolutely in tune, but I can hear notes, I can identify it, you know.
So
And I
did you have a jazz band in college?
when I went to college, I went to this teacher's school which is in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, which is down in the bottom part of Missouri. It's famous for being the birthplace of Jess Stacy,
Okay.
the pianist Jess Stacy. In
Yeah.
fact, at the library on the college, they used to have a little, like a little box, like a tribute to him. And of course, I was young and stupid at the time. I didn't know anything about Jess Stacy. Now I would have like, wow, I want to go look at this. But I knew it was there. But I was into Miles and Herbie Hancock at the time. So, but I always had an awareness that these people were important. I didn't dismiss them out of hand. But anyway, so I was at this teachers college, and they had a good kind of fair to middling jazz guitarist teaching the combo there, and I was in the combo, and I brought some of the arrangements that I had done in high school with my with Mr. McCurry's help, I had kind of transcribed Blue Train, the John Coltrane thing,
Sure.
and I did I transcribed a thing on the Mana de Carnaval, da, 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 da.
Yep.
So I
Black
brought
Orpheus.
some of
is the,
yeah, Black Orpheus. It's got several names, but so I brought that down there, and so I was kind of hanging out with the combo, and then they got a big band. But it wasn't much of a jazz school. It was mainly like a teacher's school to get people ready to be band directors. But being the big fish in the little pond, I was like the jazz guy after a while. But they were good teachers. I don't want to knock it. See, I always get chuckle out here where all these people are, going on about the highfalutin colleges they went to. Oh, well, I went to and so I'm like, yeah, I went to Southeast Missouri State University, and sometimes, I might know maybe as much as you do.
It's funny.
And maybe more.
It's funny that you say that because I never did universities.
Yeah.
I did purely junior colleges.
Sure.
But when I got to Orange Coast College in 1973, the band had Tom Kubis and Tom Saviano and Dave Diggs and Kevin Axt and
Wow.
Brian Shaw and Dan Barrett
Oh, geez.
and this was at a junior college, and I was stepping as a freshman.
Yeah.
Um, so once again, through the years of just being in Southern California, it was kind of a golden place for all kinds of jazz because of the Orange Coast College Jazz Festival
Yeah.
at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's get back to you,
Okay.
which is the idea of the call. I would. Is what was your first paying gig as any kind of musician?
Oh my gosh. Well, my high school band director used to take me out on gigs that I was just playing. I wasn't getting paid. But I think you'd have to go to, once I was in college, we we had this Dixieland group that was half, Dixieland. We have to, guess we're changing that, but anyway. So we had this group, and it was half faculty and half students. And it was the clarinet teacher at the college, whose name is David Green, and the trombone player was on the faculty, and the tuba player was kind of he was like a graduate assistant, and then me, myself, and the banjo player and the drummer were the students, and we played things way too fast, but it was, and I remember just playing. We would actually get some club gigs, and that's actually where I was starting to make a tiny bit of money, playing. But we were just happy to do it.
Yeah. The reason one of the reasons I was asking is my very first gig of any kind was actually an Easter church service,
Oh wow.
and I failed miserably. But that's beside the point. Hey, you were talking about the fact that, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself chronologically. So, what brought your family out to California?
Oh, well, I was after college. I tried my hand at teaching high school, and that didn't really pan out. So I ended up going back home, and I thought, well, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get some graduate work in, and I went to Webster University in St. Louis, which had a very good jazz studies department and some very high, some very good musicians there. I actually took some lessons with one of the top jazz trumpeters there. His name is Randy Holmes. I think he's still there. I didn't really learn too much from him other than I hung out with him. And I became like his protege, and he used to send me out on gigs and stuff. But anyway, while in the course of that, I was kind of working my way through and working my way up the St. Louis echelon there, trying to get work. And I got this fateful call one day. It was right around my birthday. It was around 1989. In fact, it was 1989, I believe. And it was from Dan Smith, who was this trumpet player in St. Louis. And he called me and he said, "Oh, Jack Morgan of the Russ Morgan Orchestra, he just lost his trumpet. They were supposed to do this tour to Europe, and it fell through. And he needs a trumpet player." and you should call him up. And so, and this was kind of a rare thing because there was usually a contractor on the band who would hire people. But for some reason, Dan Smith uh, gave Jack Morgan my name, and I called Jack Morgan directly. And he talked to me for a moment, and he hired me. And so here I am. I'm going to get this tacky three-piece suit, and I joined the band up in St. Louis somewhere, and I took off. I'm getting to your point.
Oh no, it's not a problem.
Okay, so I toured, and I learned a lot. I could go on and on about, and this kind of goes to the point of how I got into earlier jazz, is being on this band, which was sort of a society dance band.
Mm-hmm.
I learned to have a greater appreciation for the older forms of pop, swing, commercial, that kind of music, jazz, right? And so I toured for about a year and a half with them. And they had a wonderful old drummer on the band named Eddie Julian. He was 82 years old. And he had played with all kinds. He had played with the Les Brown band before Doris Day came back and had big hits. He was on the band when she was on her first tour.
Well, she was beautiful in those days, wasn't she?
Yeah, oh God. And, and a wonderful singer. But he was with her before, and then she left to have a baby, and she came back in 45, and then it really took off. But he had wonderful stories. He played with Alvino Ray. He made a movie with Alvino Ray.
And his singing guitar?
Yeah, pedal steel guitar player, yes, band leader.
No, I said and his singing guitar, you remember?
Yes, his singing guitar.
Alvino Ray and his singing guitar. Anyway.
He made a movie with them. He showed us the movie he made. And but he played with all these people. He's from New York, and he talked like this, Jimmy, and he told these great stories, and he played poker all night. He would sit up and play poker all night, and I would get him to talk, and he knew all about what Jack wanted to hear. He'd say, no, he wants to hear it like this. And he would sing, and he had this, but he liked me because he would tell these corny jokes, and I would go, ha!
Sideman laugh.
Right. So he would tell a joke and he'd look at me and go, huh? And then when I wasn't out there, when I was in the bunk, he'd go, where's Ziegler at? Tell some joke, and then I go, ah! So anyway, I'm getting way off the subject.
Well, I should tell you, when I was teaching jazz classes, I actually taught my jazz classes the Sideman laugh. So anyway, go ahead.
I need this gig, so I better. But anyway, so I did that, and the end of one of the tours was out here in California. We played at Disneyland for a couple nights, and before that, we did this, was it a week? I think it was like 5-night cruise out of Long Beach. Back when the Azure Seas, it was Admiral Cruise Lines, I think, they're long gone. Mm-hmm. We had guest privileges on the ship. So we didn't have to stay in our hole like the band there.
Yeah.
We could go up, and we had we had like one gig a night. We had some dance thing to do in the ballroom. But anyway, I met my future wife on this cruise. All right. And so we kind of hung out, and she came out to Disney, and so I left, and I went and did this thing on the opposite end of the country, Sea Island, Georgia. I went back home for Christmas. And then I had decided to come out and see her over the break. So, and we decided to get married, all of that. And then I did one more short tour of duty at the beginning of 1990. And then I had to cut it short because my wife had a health problem, and she was really kind of worried about it. And so I left early, much to the consternation of Mr. Morgan. But, what are you going to do? So I came back here in March of 1990 with a list of names that one of my friends had given me, and that's where I've been ever since. One of the names, luckily, was Chuck Erdahl, sax player, and he actually, a lot of it didn't pan out, but luckily his number was good, and he said, yeah, you ought to call Wayne Foster Agency.
Okay.
And I ended up doing a rehearsal down at Local 7, and ended up working within a month. I was doing a casual at the LA Country Club. So I was very
Local
lucky.
7. I wonder if, what are they still in the same building on Main Street?
Yes, they are. It's been refurbished quite a bit. It looks very nice now. Uh, I did a thing with Tom Hines, a little teaching event, music teaching event last year. So, and they have a nice stage, a nice setup now in there.
Now,
Looks nice.
speaking of teaching music, you're a lot of your students are around the city of Orange and Anaheim area. Is that right?
Yeah, I have three private students that I'm doing remotely right now through the music, well, kind of connected to the music store. But
Yeah.
been for since 1997, I've been working for this company that goes around and we do band and violin at Catholic schools. And so I have a school in Orange, St. Norbert Catholic School,
Okay.
and I have a school over in Cyprus, St. Irenaeus, and the other school is in North Long Beach at St. Cyprian.
Which kind of ties into, I don't know if you know this, but my son Aaron, who's one of the people who reached out to you and helped
Yes.
organize all this, you know, he's the band director at Orange Lutheran
Oh my
High
goodness!
School. So
Wow.
I was wondering if he had any of your old students in his band. It was just
He,
kind of a thought.
yeah, it depends on how long he's been there.
He's been there for 5 years now.
5 years, yeah, I don't know. Every once in a while, I always tell these kids when they leave, do the best you can, and please come back. Love to see you. Occasionally, I'll be at one of these back to school nights, and some parents will come up.
Yeah.
You remember Grant Barnes? Oh, he remembers you. You haven't changed a bit. And I say, oh, you're very kind. So it's nice. Occasionally, I'll run into people that, oh, he's still doing something. And, it's just it's very nice. It's good.
I was
Yeah.
just curious. You know, I've got to say, Jim, speaking of, you look the same. You look the same. I mean, I've definitely weathered for the time that we have been separated by whatever families and gigs and things.
Hmm.
But seriously, man, you're looking fine.
Oh well, thank you. I've decided to uh, during this crisis, I went to the COVID cut here. My wife has been on me for years. Oh, get rid of this comb over. You got nothing in the front. So I finally, what better time than now? No one's going to see me unless it's like this. So I let her do it, and so she said, "Oh, you look 20 years younger." Flattery gets you everywhere. Now it's like, oh, so what? It. But so now she's on me because she wants to cut it off. So I'm just gonna stay with it because now I'm old and I just don't care anymore.
Yeah,
Really?
I'm trying to remember when
Yeah.
first we met. If you have
Wow.
a great memory, I can't remember where I was yesterday.
Well, I'm trying to remember if we did anything before SeaWorld.
Well, I agree.
Yeah, because it's 95. I remember that John Brand, Tom got the gig at SeaWorld. He did an audition thing. I remember going down to Blair Field in Long Beach and we taped us playing a tune.
Right,
And
I wasn't there for that. That was
yeah,
John.
that was
By
with,
the way,
yeah.
John's going to be doing the interviews too.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah,
Tell him I said hello. John Brand, he's a wonderful man.
he is.
Occasionally we'll converse on Facebook or whatever. But yeah, I miss him. But he sent that down there and they liked it, and then so we started doing that 3 day a week thing. And then John was working with Dwight Kennedy a lot, and I guess other things happened, and he kind of bowed out.
Yeah. You know, when you and I were doing SeaWorld together, I don't know if you remember this, but I was actually doing 5 days a week at different locations. I was doing three at SeaWorld, and I was doing three at the Wild Animal Park with Bill Dendel. Actually,
Okay.
I have an interview with him today also.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I was doing one day with Phil Andreen up in Pasadena at Burger Continental.
Oh yeah.
So I was driving between the Wild
Oh
Animal
my
Park
gosh.
and San Diego and
Oh,
Pasadena,
that's crazy.
trying to make more money than I could spend.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, I was the beginning of that SeaWorld thing. I was still working at a department store for a while. Uh, I was working at the Broadway there in South Coast Plaza, Crystal Court.
Okay.
So I would come back after a couple days. I would come back from SeaWorld and I would, change clothes and I'd go down and sell pots and pans and stuff. And I was teaching too. Some days I would have to get done with that, and I dash off to Jim's Music Center and teach some private lessons. So so that was, and my kids were very young at that time. 94. My son was only about, oh gosh, he wasn't even a year old yet.
Have you ever forgiven him for standing on your straw hat?
Ah! I think my daughter did that. Yeah, so she crushed that. I actually had to hot glue that. I had to hot glue the straw hat because it got smashed. But
Oh, the things you remember.
yeah, yeah. But my
During
daughter
that
was only a couple years old then. So
during that job, we kind of there was one. I guess she was an employee. I don't remember her first name, but we used to call her a gender check. That I
I
remember
remember
that.
that.
And I had
Yes.
loaned her my complete CBS collection of Louis Armstrong on cassette tape and never got it back.
Oh man.
I know. I know.
Good
Things we regret.
Now that's sacrilege, pilfering Louis Armstrong's collected opus.
Oh, I had some. I back when I was still teaching a lot of private students. I'd actually had lost some early Maynard records when he was
Oh,
doing
jeez.
quartet and small bands.
Oh wow.
A few of my students who ran off with those. So
Yeah.
I'm just kind of a trusting fool at times.
Yeah, yeah. But so yeah, that I don't know if we did anything before that. I'm trying to think of
I don't think so. But I have a lot of reflections on that gig in its own right. Remember the cafeteria?
Oh yeah.
The SeaWorld special was starch on starch on starch on
Right.
carbohydrates.
Well, Tom still he out at Disney, he still kids me. He'll come up and say, "Weigh your meat," which you had to weigh the meat on the thing for your sandwich. He'll joke with me about that to this day.
Do you
He
joke with
still
him
remembers that.
Do you joke with him about cafe mochas? I'm just asking.
Oh no, I didn't think of that. Gosh, yeah. He would say tank up too, because I would always say tank up because I had to, because I
Because
knew
you
I
had
had
to
to
go
go to work, and
Yeah.
I would eat a ton of food. That's back when I could eat a ton of food.
Yeah, that was. Or how about the penguin dance?
Oh, the penguin dance. Oh my
For those of you who don't know, one of the mascots at the SeaWorld Park in San Diego
gosh.
is Penny. Was it Penny the penguin?
I don't remember.
Had a first name, but so we used to play the chicken dance, and it would dance for us every time they came around.
Yeah.
One of the things in my intro that I talk about that my friends that I've met over the years, whether they're touring musicians or if they're theme park warriors or weekend amateurs,
Right.
I think everybody has a story to tell, and you've done all of that.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to get out to Disney even before. I mean, I tell people about the old days when you could just walk in, because well, I owe my I don't know. I think I owe my Disney work to Brian Atkinson. I
Okay.
want to give credit where credit is due there because I happened to meet Brian. Uh, I think I met him. Dan St. Marseille, who was an acquaintance of mine, was in my band for a while. He was doing a gig, and I think Brian was there, and I met Brian, and I told him I play trumpet and all that, and we talked on the phone, and he said, I want you to come out because I could play I told him I played Dixieland kind of stuff, early jazz, and he said I want you to come out to the park with me one day. I'm gonna introduce you to the guys, and maybe you could work with the Five Alarm Band, which was that great group with Ray Templin and Roger Bissell and Jay Mason and Lemoyne Taylor.
Sure.
I remember all these guys, and so he did. He let me. I came out to the park one day, and I hung out with him. I watched him play, and he introduced me to Bill Liston, Tom's brother, and some of the guys. And so then I went, and he told me, "Hey, I want you to come out and do this half day with the Five Alarm Band." I was like, "Okay, wow, great." So I was really nervous, and I walk into the band room, and nobody said a word to me because that was the old
Oh
Disney
yeah.
band. You're the outsider. You got to prove yourself. And Roger Bissell, who maybe I'd met, he kind of maybe nodded. Was all he did, and nobody said a word. And I felt like this tall. I'm like, I'm gonna go home now. And then Ray Templin came, and he said, "Oh, Jim, how you doing?" And I felt so much better.
Ray's
Ray,
a great guy,
Ray and
and
I.
a funny man.
Oh yes, of course. And I'd never forgotten how kind Ray was to me. In fact, before he left town, I called him up. I said, "Ray, I want you to know that the first time I worked there, you made me feel very welcome. Never forgotten it." You know, and he was the greatest. I would have dropped everything to play with Ray. He would call me occasionally. "Oh, we got this gig," and I'd say, "Go, I'm there." And
Ray
but it
tried
was
to hire
beautiful.
me. Ray tried to hire me several times at the park, and for reasons I won't go into, we never were able to make it happen.
Yeah.
But
But Brian was so. I mean, he's still on the sub list. He's still playing a little bit, and he. I mean, he got me. I met Roger and Lemoyne and all these guys, and I play. I would do occasionally stuff for Brian.
right,
Back then, you could just walk in.
yep,
Walked in, you got clothes, you walked out, and he paid me under the table. And then that kind of kept going, and then somehow the word got around to the West Side, and I'll never forget the first. Somehow, what's his face? Oh God, Greg Vorlata
okay,
got my name, and I played one night on the Raft with the Side Street Strutters,
okay,
and here I am, and it's the Verdes, it's Joey Sellers, it's John Norieko, it's Paul Johnson, and they're just bopping their way, they're doing their bop jazz thing. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do my Louis Armstrong thing, so I'm just playing, and John Norieko goes, "Yeah, man, laying it down." and and I told Paul Johnson this. I don't know if he remembers, but we're walking back to the break room, and Paul looks at me. He says, "You're doing it right. We're doing it wrong."
well, that's nice to know that somebody recognizes the schism.
Right. And that kind of went on, for a while. And then after I finally got on, Rusty would have me come out in the summer when he would do the camp. So I would do the better part of a week or two with the Strutters. And then I got on the system. Rusty said, "We need to get you on the system." And finally, 2003, they put me on the system, and I came a casual temporary. So then I started getting calls because they have to always call you once a while. And then I did that. And then, of course, in 2006, they decided to disband all these groups.
That was a sad day.
Yeah, it was. And I thought, well, now that's it. I'll never work here again because most of the time I was with the Strutters. And I was totally wrong because that fall, Tom Hines calls me and he says, "I've been talking to these guys in The Bachelors about you. You ought to, I think I'm going to try to get you some work," because Tom was subbing a little bit for Terry, and oh, what's his face? He died several years ago. But anyway, it'll come to me. But so then Matt Franke calls me and he says, "Come on out. I want you to watch this show we're doing." And I did, and then I didn't do a rehearsal. They usually rehearse all these shows. I show up. Terry Evans runs down the show in the break room. He says, "Now you're going to do the show." And I do the show. I listen to, okay, now this happens. Now this happens. I went out and did the show cold. I did both. And then Rusty says, "I need you to come over here and watch the Jambalaya Band. We got this show. I want you to do it." And so I never really got to see the show. I watched, I shadowed the show one day. Again, no rehearsal on this either. He sat at the table in the break room and said, "Now here's your moment," like he does in his inimitable way. "Here's what you do this, you do this, you do this." And so I did that show without a rehearsal. I did both shows. I did all four. I did all four shows. And then so now I was starting to work, and to this day, thankfully.
That's really wonderful. A little aside. I went to college, one of my colleges with Matt Franke,
Yeah.
and he actually bought my French Besson from me, or actually we traded his Yamaha Pro for my French Besson because the bore size was too big and my son was starting to play and I wanted a horn for my son. But
Wow.
that aside, let's come up a little bit through this.
Okay.
because I want you to talk about Swingsations.
Oh, wow. Okay. We need all the press we can get.
Well, not only that,
I need.
you've done other names I want to bring up. For one thing, Johnny's band and Dean's band. I want
Johnny
to talk about
Crawford.
a little bit, but let's give the Swingsations a good plug here.
Oh, thank you.
My son was into swing dancing in his late high school and early college years,
Okay.
and came back home from one of these and was raving about this quartet he saw. And guess who it was? I mean, I think it was at the Cosmic Bowl or one of those places.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah,
and it was the Swingsations.
Yeah, we started out thanks to you. You did the artwork for my first cassette.
And your first business card.
Yes, you did. Yeah, thank you. Uh, Lane Vifinkel recorded. Good old Lane from Holland, who I think he went back to Holland. He did my first recording, and the group was originally a quartet. And actually, I'm saying that this is my 25th anniversary year. Actually, I think we were rehearsing in '94. This is where my memory is not good. I can't remember too much about the early Swingsations gigs anymore.
Well, for one thing, my parents' 50th anniversary. Except I played string bass for it.
Okay,
But
I think I have a vague recollection of that. Yes.
but yeah,
Yeah, but it was originally a quartet, and I can't remember. Around '95, I started kind of working. I was doing the jazz clubs because they would have the feature band. That was a nice way to kind of get started, you know.
I was amazed at the concept because you were kind of doing big band tunes with quartets and quintets. I mean, you were doing Jimmy Lunsford tunes
Yes,
and
still
things
do.
that I would never have imagined would come close to working in a small group. And that must have taken some heavy arranging and instrumentation switches.
Yeah, see, that's because I'm a frustrated. I always wanted to have a bigger group, you know. I would have liked to have had a sextet or a septet where I could have four horns or something. But, you know, it just budget wise and forget about a big band. It's like, you know, there's too many big bands out here already. And they're very good, but it's like I would just be another person scuffling to try to get people in my big band, right? And it's just, you know, it's a little more work than I want to do. And so my frustration was, well, how can I do these tunes? How can I have my cake and eat it too?
Sure.
And so I would listen to these things and just kind of distill them down to the essence, right? Like rhythm is our business, which I've been doing for 25 years. And I took it and first off, that intro, I'm like, not going to do that intro. Da 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 da. It's too crazy, you know. And you know, you got subs, they're going to follow. So you just take that out, and then I just distilled it down, and you know, the singing element. And I would try to teach the guys. At the early days, I had taught them to sing it in harmony. But you know, now it's like, you know, if you could do this in the band, if you could do that,
the
or if you
answers,
could
yes.
go right, or if you can just go in the band, that's fine, right? You know, if Phil Krozak's game though, he'll give me some nice harmony, you know.
Phil and I were doing college bands together. Also, it's kind of we're in such a small world.
Yeah, but I mean, so he would take some of these things, and now the group has evolved to where I do some of those tightly structured things, but I also want to have a group that has the ability to fake something. I also want a group that can play a lead sheet. I also want to play a novelty number occasionally, something that's, you know, lighthearted.
Sure.
But the problem is people want to box you. Oh, you're that band that does Jimmy Lunsford reductions. Oh yeah. And then I just fake, you know, well, let's fake Honeysuckle Road. Oh, okay, you're just one of those run of the mill. Okay, fine. But then I like Bananas because they have no bones. Because you know.
So then you'd be a novelty band.
Right. And music goes round and round, which you know I think of, you know, I can't think of that without thinking of Westy, because we did this great on my second CD, which talk about shameless plugs. Here it is right here, ladies and gentlemen.
Wonderful.
The Swingsations Don Redmond tribute.
Is that available on CD Baby or any of those things?
It is. It is, as a matter of fact. And CD Baby, I guess they've opened up again. They had shut their warehouse down due to COVID, but
Sure.
yeah, but someone who a charming person from Korea had emailed me and said, I bought your CDs, but I can't get them. What's the problem? And I said, let me look. And I wrote her back. I said, I'm so sorry, CD Baby's warehouse is down. You may have to wait. If you have any problems, please, I'll send them to you directly. But I think they finally got them to her. Anyway, so, but I like to do novelty numbers. I also like to get serious. I also like this. And I do Thelonious Monk tunes because they work at a lot of Monk's tunes are medium tempo.
Have you ever heard
Yeah,
a French band called the Anachronic Jazz Band?
I have.
That's immediately what comes to mind when you talk about doing bebop and more modern tunes, or postmodern jukebox, of course.
Right.
But I love Anachronic. It's one of my favorite bands
Yeah,
to
yeah.
listen to.
But I also love Jelly Roll Morton tunes. I mean, the early band, I was trying to do sort of trad stuff, but the players, it didn't really fit. I didn't think it sounded right. Now my kind of frame of reference is it's sort of a 30s reference with an acoustic guitar, and you can do it's sort of a Condon-esque kind of
Sure.
thing at times.
And more marketable.
Right, you can do that kind of tunes, but it has more of a swing feel.
Yeah, because Snake Rag really doesn't work with a string bass and a guitar.
No, no, see, yeah, and I used to do Hot Tamale Man, if you can imagine.
Sure, I remember you did.
Right, and it's a great tune, but but I kind of gotten away from that.
You didn't have
Uh,
anybody who could sing that intro so high.
Yeah, Hot Tamale Man. Right. So, yeah, but I mean, I have a wide range of interests, and I'm interested in kind of expanding repertoire. That's why I'm talking about Thelonious Monk. I mean, we'll throw In Walk Bud
Yeah.
in our gig, because it's got this nice with 4/4, and I have a nice little arrangement of it. I have an arrangement of Well You Needn't in my book, which is kind of tough.
Yeah.
I'd like to do Epistrophe because it's just a great tune. It swings. So I'm interested. I mean, a lot of these guys out there, they're doing. My friend, my Mr. Stout, who gives me a lot of work. His frame of reference is a lot of this Benny Goodman sextet stuff and Artie Shaw, Gramercy 5. But a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm not damning this music. It's wonderful music, but I don't feel the need to do it if everyone else is doing it.
Sure.
There's a lot of other great stuff out there. I have In the Mood in my book. If somebody wants to hear it, I've got a nice reduction of it. It's
Just be careful. You remember Chuck Anderson, trombone
yeah,
player.
sure.
When we would do gigs together, he used to say, "I think maybe we should play Saints in case somebody wants to hear it."
Yeah.
And
Well,
well, listen,
well,
Jim. Plug your album one more time because
Okay.
we've kind of come to the end of our discussion for this little soiree. I'm so glad you agreed to do this.
oh well, I'm happy you asked me.
All the times we were together, honestly, I know I was a bit of a jerk,
Oh,
and we really, as musicians, other than sitting around eating, you don't really get a time to know who people are and
right.
what their paths are, and that's one of the purposes of this channel.
Yeah.
I was telling Matt Provine, who was my first interview, that I miss musicians' lounges as jazz festivals.
Oh yeah. Oh
miss-
yeah. I love those festivals because you see these people you hadn't seen in years, and I would see. I did that San Diego festival a couple years ago, and good grief, all these people.
Isn't that fun?
Mike Baird, Robbie Rhodes, all these people I hadn't seen in decades. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh.
In fact, one of the people that I'm going to be interviewing is Dan Comins.
Oh gosh.
So
Oh, that's
it'll be
great.
fun. I understand.
Yeah.
Well, good. Give yourself a plug again. And
Yeah,
I'll-
well, you folks out there, it's a 5-piece band. Like I said, we have something for every taste. Like I said, there's novelty numbers. This is our latest record is called Still Swingin'. Get my fingers off there. And that's a picture of the current group. done in 2018. These are, and our first one is, some of you old timers might recognize that drummer. It's Ed Slauson.
Oh, Ed, gosh.
And this is the last record he ever made, is on my record.
Of course, he was on the Golden West Band
Yes, he was.
when we did the Southern Comfort tour. So
Right. But we have 3 records out, and the second 2 are available digitally too, so you can download them. It's available on CD Baby, and CD Baby sends it out to like iTunes, Spotify. It's on a lot of different platforms. If the website address is https://theswingsations.com website. We're also on Facebook under The Swingsations, where you can see some of my quarantine solos that I've been doing.
by the way, I've enjoyed those.
Oh, thank you.
Now, have you thought about trying to arrange to do a little online recording session with a group somewhere where you can distance?
Well, yeah, I don't know. That might take some doing. I mean, if this keeps going, we might be forced to do it. Everybody's lives are so, crazy. It would be kind of hard.
We just did the reason I asked is we just did that with the Cherry Willow Band
Wow.
for the Society for the Preservation of Jazz out in Duarte.
Oh, nice.
So we did a standalone recordings, video session, and then they
Okay.
downloaded it to their website. So
Sure.
that's something to think about. Now, listen, if I can, we'll try to fly in some of these links and things that you've mentioned when we publish the interview.
Yeah, because that was I gave the website address, and I do have the Facebook page. If you type in these swing stations, I got a nice page there. So I need to put some more stuff on that.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy, this has been fun. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad you agreed to do this, and I hope we have a chance to play together again. Hopefully, it's because it's really difficult to play tuba and trumpet when you have your mask on. But
Yes.
we'll have to see what happens here in the not too distant future. And please give your family all my love, and best of luck to you.
Well, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you all for watching Trad Jazz Today with Dan Zeilinger. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Videos come out every Wednesday and Friday.